Good afternoon, everybody. This is Bob Cohen. I was just muted. I was trying to send out a message to everybody. We will get started in just another minute or so as people join. Give them a chance to get on. Want to say good afternoon and welcome. Appreciate you all joining us today. And I'll get us started at about 12:01, so another 40 seconds or so, and we'll get started. Okay, well, again, good afternoon. I've got 12:01, so let's get started. My name is Bob Cohen. I am a SCORE mentor, and I want to welcome everybody here this afternoon. A couple things before we get started. One, you'll probably receive within a few days a copy of the recording. It'll also be on YouTube as well. We've got a YouTube station, and we are in the process of recording this now on YouTube as well. And then the other thing is you'll receive a copy of the slides. So while it's, if you want to take notes, feel free. These slides will be available for you, and you'll see there's some valuable links on the slides. So before we get started on the actual part of marketing, I want to talk a little bit about SCORE for the first 2, 3, 4 minutes. There's a lot of information that we're going to be sharing this afternoon. I want to get it done within about an hour's time so I can get everybody back to work. So first slide, I just want to let you know that, SCORE is probably the largest network of free volunteer mentors in the nation. So we are all volunteers, and as a result, everything that we do is free to you. So no matter where you are, you're probably a SCORE chapter somewhere nearby. Feel free to look them up. You can also go on to our SCORE website, which I'll show you in a few minutes. And we just want to be able to help you start, grow, transition your business, and stay with you for the life of your business. That's how we work. Our mission is to foster small business communities through mentoring and education. And our mentoring works it's generally one-on-one mentoring. We will connect you with an expert in a field, hopefully that's closely related to what you're looking for. And that mentor will contact you. I'll explain that in a few minutes as to how that works. We've got stuff for pretty much everybody. There are 240 chapters like the one here in Cleveland around the country. We've probably got some 10,000 volunteers. So somewhere along the line, somebody has the wherewithal to help you with the business you're either trying to start or trying to grow. And so we've got expertise everywhere that we can rely on and bring into our own mentoring sessions if we don't have what is needed in the Cleveland area. So, the one thing I think that's really important here is that small businesses really help to drive the national economy. About 50% of the economy is from small businesses. And our commitment is to help build those small communities and to help in job creation and wealth building, as well as to build businesses. So, you are all in it probably to build some wealth to pass it on to your families. And that's really important to keep our nation's finances going well. So our volunteers, as I mentioned before, give of their time freely, and we are free to you. And that's because part of what we need in terms of funding is given to us through the government and the SBA. And then we also raise funds that we need in order to run our chapter here in Cleveland. What I wanted to do before we get started is just quickly show you our website. So to get to our website, it is score.org/Cleveland. And when you are on it, and I just want to show you a couple things in terms of what you can do with it. Let me go back and open that up. So you should be seeing our website live right now. And by the way, feel free to drop me any kind of chat or ask some questions. I'll try and monitor it. I'm the only one on right now, so from SCORE. So it might take some time for me to get back to you, but I will definitely do that. The important part is if you want to get a mentor, if you want to, and you'll see as we go through this marketing, there's some things that you might want some help on. Just free go into request a mentor, fill out some information here for us. Your first name, last name. I'm not going to go into every part of it, but this is a good area to describe what it is that you're looking for your business. And the way this works is once you submit it based on your zip code, it will go to the chapter that most closely services that zip code that you're in. So if you're anywhere in and around Cleveland, we're in 7 counties from Ashtabula on the east all the way through Huron on the west side of the lake. So if you're in any of those counties, it will go to the SCORE chapter in Cleveland. What we'll do is we will look at what it is you're asking for and try to match you up as closely as we can to a mentor that's got that experience or somebody who's got some very good general experience that can also bring in other mentors. Our first session typically is a discovery session to find out what it is you're looking for and what you might need. I'm going to go back one, and I just want to show you that there are some really valuable resources, templates. So for instance, there's business plan templates. There's all kinds of financial templates here. Everything on this website is free. So all you need to do is go to score.org. You can sign up for workshops from here. You can look at upcoming events and go ahead and look by location. You can look across the entire nation to see what's going on. So Google Analytics for small businesses coming up, as you can see. Marketing on a budget, optimize Google Business. And some of those are really, really excellent presentations. Actually, they all are. So now I'm going to go back to the presentation itself. So before I get into what marketing strategy is and our marketing basics, I just want you to understand that in an hour's time, we don't have enough time to go through marketing in any real detail. So this is going to be a 40,000 foot view of what marketing is. And you can come back in here, click on some of the links and get more and more detail through it. But also I encourage you to join other workshops and webinars that might delve into other parts of marketing. But this is going to be overall coverage of marketing in general. So what is marketing strategy? It is basically a comprehensive plan. And you notice I underlined that. And it is based on marketing objectives. And we'll talk about strategies and objectives in a little bit. But what I really want you to understand is that if you're going to go into marketing, you don't just pick out of the sky, I'm going to do social, I'm going to do advertising online, I'm going to, work on my website, I'm going to do newspaper advertising or radio advertising. You really want to plan to figure out where you're going to do it, how it reaches your target, and you'll see as we go along, and how you can be very specific, and it can be end to end, as you'll see as we go along. So where are you going to start? You're going to start with your objectives, or in this case, really going to start with goals. I'll show you some goal setting techniques in a few minutes. But it is, based on what your objectives for your organization are. And one thing I wanted to let you know is that while this is fairly general, it really is good for if you're doing business to business, if you're a service business, if you're a manufacturing business, and if you are, in fact, manufacturing and distributing. If you're a trucking business, service businesses, this plan that I'm talking about will cover all that in the material that I'm presenting this afternoon. So why have a marketing plan? The first thing is to understand your customer. How do you reach the audience, and who is the right audience to reach? How to develop financial goals. So, if you have a product or a service, what is it that you want to be able to sell? At what price? What are your goals? in terms of being able to do that. And you'll see that what we want to do is look at things that are measurable so that we know whether or not we're being successful. Um, so understanding your competitors, I can't express how important it is to know what your competitors are doing in your marketplace. And a lot of people will say, well, I have no competitors, but I would argue that even if you have somebody in your area that's doing a little piece of what you're doing or all of what you're doing, or you've got an idea that's different than anybody else's, you have competitors out there and you really need to know them as well as you know your own business. That's really important. Talk about that a little bit further on in as well. So the biggest thing is to outline your marketing activities. How do your marketing activities align with your goals, with your target market, with the people that you're trying to sell to? And then setting measurable goals. I've got a slide here. We'll talk about that in a few minutes. And making sure that you've got the right resources to do this. How much of your budget will you allocate to putting together marketing plans? And, sometimes people are doing it on a shoestring. Sometimes people have plenty of money to do it. Larger companies might dedicate 10 or 12% of their entire budget to marketing, but you got to make sure that the return on your investment is there in order to make that work. Um, this is going to help you develop promotional strategies, and maybe as important as anything, and I mentioned competitors, you might need to have some sort of defense or offense, against your competitors. And certainly budgeting is going to be a big part of it. So I just wanted to show you a quick marketing funnel. This could be considered a sales funnel as well. But when you go out and you market, what you're trying to do is first create some awareness with your product or your service, or things that you are marketing. That's what your marketing campaigns do. That's where you get leads at the top of your funnel, that because you have created awareness. So it might be events, trade shows, it might be blogs, it might be webinars, direct mail, all kinds of things that we're going to talk about in more detail going forward. But the idea is to then get engagement, and that is to get people interested in your product and your services, get them interested in how you're positioning yourselves, and then follow up to get more information to them. So they're either asking you for something. So if you've got a website, if you've got a blog, if you're doing electronic marketing of any kind, a call to action is going to get people interested and getting them down that funnel into the consideration side of that, which you can see in this blue-green color. So, so when people start asking questions about product and product information, you might have emails that are going out, campaigns that are going out, creating the interest that people have. You might have case studies, free trials, and a lot more. So the idea is to get people to want to see your product, want to see your service, want you to come to them with a proposal, want you to engage and go further with whatever it is you're selling. And that even includes working in a retail setting as well. So while it may not be as long a process as a business to business organization takes to get from the awareness to actual purchase, but it's still there. Somebody comes in, they're aware of your product, they're interested in the product. Your help is to help them make a decision to buy it, and we'll talk about some of that going forward. Understanding their intent to buy, they evaluate it, and then ultimately, hopefully, make a purchase. So that is what that funnel looks like. And that sales funnel, if you're working with a client, a customer relations management tool, that funnel is going to be very important. If you are working with an organization that's business to business and you've got a sales team, you want them to understand where things are within their sales funnel. So when you talk to a salesperson, they can tell you what clients, what customer, what potential you have going forward. It's important before you spend money to understand where people are in terms of their decision-making process. So what I want you to do is really understand how to develop a sales plan. And we're going to walk through strategizing, documenting it, and implementing it. And then I added on at the bottom, measuring your plan. So what you want to be able to do is to know whether or not your marketing plan is successful by actually being able to measure it. And you can measure it in a lot of different ways, and there's a lot of data available. It could be as simple as understanding who's going to your website, how much they're spending there, how long they're spending, how long of the time they're spending there, what they're clicking on. It might be, if you're in a retail situation, actual end sales, end user sales might be one way to measure what you're doing. But there are other things in between, creating the interest in that funnel and getting down to when they buy. So being able to measure each and every one of the steps I just showed you is really important. So we're going to walk through each one of these in terms of marketing strategy. Again, high level view. We can get into a lot deeper if you decide that you want to work with a SCORE mentor. There are other great agencies out there that have people that will work with you, but SCORE is a great place to try it. So we want to talk about what you're selling. And again, whether it's a product or a service, whether you're business to business, whether you're business to consumer, these things have very, very close similarities. Okay. What is your value proposition? Everybody should have a value proposition. What key benefits do you have? What features and what differentiators you have? We'll get into that in more detail in just a minute. What is the market? Who are you selling to? What is the demand? What is the geography? What is the demographics of the people you're selling to? What are your ideal targets? What do they look like? What are their buying habits? We'll get into that in a minute as well. And that's going to lead you into thinking through how you want to put together your message. Okay, understanding who your target is and where you might want to consider marketing to reach that target and the type of message that you put together for that target market. And then certainly how to sell. What is your distribution? What is your pricing? What are your promotional strategies? What incentives might you get to get people from the top of that funnel to the bottom of that funnel? And what tactics and channel might you use? And we'll go into that in much more detail as we go through. So here's an idea. I mean, you need to have a clear direction and define your offering or your service or your product. And you need to be able to articulate that again in your messaging as well as in everything else you do. And so, again, I mentioned value proposition. Everybody should have a value proposition. What differentiates you from your competitors? Again, going back to that competitor, really understanding what that competitor does and what offers they have and how that works. So that means that you need to understand how to differentiate yourself against your competitor. That's really important. And so your value proposition. And a lot of times, what you are bringing to the table is a way of solving a problem that your customers have. That's what your business may be all about, whether it's retail, service, consumer, or business to business. So you need to be able to communicate, your features and benefits very clearly. So where are you selling it? So this means understanding where to place your marketing. Is your offering best suited for, local, regional, or national markets? Okay, you need to understand that first. You might be selling in a neighborhood. If you are, let's say, a small retailer, somebody that is selling clothing or somebody that's selling jewelry or somebody that's selling beauty products. You're in a specific neighborhood. You're not necessarily a destination where people from other places in and around the city are going to come to you, of course, unless you've got a unique product they can't get anywhere else. But so, you need to understand what your market is. And we've got clients that are marketing internationally as well. So are there, geographical or physical restraints that you need to consider. So that might be, something as simple as a storefront, something as simple as an retail, site, and you need to think about those as well. And where will your products and services be available for purchase? So again, one of the things I like to do, I just came back from a trip to Montana fishing. And I always say you got to fish where the fish are. And if you're not fishing where the fish are, you're not going to catch any fish. So, where will you be advertising or marketing your products, or where will your products be available to a general consumer? So let's go on. And then who you're selling to. We'll get into this in the next slide a little bit deeper, but understanding, age, gender, income level, education level, potentially marital status, family status, occupations, ethnic backgrounds, buying habits, and maybe even psychological needs. It's going to be really important to understand who your ideal target is and what potential customers and or segments are out there where you're going to position your message. So give you an example, if I'm selling to somebody that is, let's say, on the older spectrum of, let's say my generation, okay, most most people get their information potentially from Facebook, potentially from things on the internet, but certainly maybe a newspaper, maybe radio, maybe other ways of looking at that. So if you're selling to older people, you got to consider that. Same thing with gender. If you're selling something that is very female oriented, then you need to figure out where women might be looking to get information about your product or your service. That would even be included in if you've got a service business. Let's say, for instance, architectural. So if you are an architect and you've got a business providing designs for homes and things like that, who within the community that you might be working in would you be selling to? Male, female? Would it be, what education level? Are you selling to builders? Are you selling to end users? Those are all things that you need to consider. So I'm going to get into this on this next couple slides from now. I think after this series on who you're selling to. So, evaluate decisions. Are there enough people who fit your criteria in any given market that you're going to actually make money selling to them? So, will the target benefit from your product or service? And I mentioned earlier, a couple slides ago, that you might be looking at a solution to a problem that's an issue for a specific set within a marketplace. If that's the case, then you've got something of benefit to them. That's important. I sold business to business, and before I actually got to a point where I was doing a presentation and doing a pitch to my customers, I wanted to understand their pain points. And did I have a solution for the pain that they were going through? And when I say pain points, it might be that their current provider is not giving them the kind of service or the kind of quality that they have, or maybe it's pricing issues, or maybe it's value types of issues that you want to talk to them about. So, you know, um, so who's going to benefit? Is there a need for what you are trying to sell? And do you understand what drives that target market to make decisions? Because if you don't, then you're not going to be fishing where the fish are. And what I mean by that, again, is that if you're going to be doing advertising or marketing or anything like that, and you're not where people are, your target is looking for their messages, then they're not going to get them. We'll get into that again in a couple more slides. How are you pricing? Can people afford to buy what you are pricing at? Where do you fit with your competitors in your pricing models? If you're a higher price, do you have the value to go along with that? If you're selling purely on price, then people are going to potentially commoditize your service or your product against others and look at it on price and price alone. That's not a great position to be at, but there are people that really understand how to make money doing that. So I'm not saying that that's a bad place to be, but it's a place to be where you need to consider your strategy around it. And can you reach anybody that is within your target market by messaging them one way or another, and that's either by advertising, on traditional media or in electronic media. And so the last part of this is how to sell, and we're going to probably spend more time on that as we go down the slides. But how does your product get to the customer? What does it cost to get your product or service out there? What does it cost the customer to buy your product? And how do you compare it to your competition? I kind of talked about that in the previous slide. And then what will what does your profit margin look like by selling at the price that you might be setting? So if you're not analyzing your financials, then you don't know if you're pricing properly, and you should get down to the point where you're looking at a net profit line to see if your overall net margins can support the products and the services and the pricing that you're working at. So, are you working with incentives, traditional media, digital media marketing? Want to talk briefly about putting together an actual marketing plan. And there is a marketing template on the SCORE website, and this is it. And this is a live link. I'll pull this up very briefly, and then I'm just going to get right back out of it. So you can actually go on here and pull this up, and it will walk you through step by step. It will give you instructions. It will tell you what to look for. You can also look at other workshops that might help you as well. So I'm not going to open this up, but I will go back to the slides. And this is in the essence of time. If we had an hour and a half, then by all means I would do it. Whoops, didn't mean to do that. Let me go back to the slides and let me hit the marketing template plan. I just want to show it to you. But again, if you take this and hit this link, you should be able to pull this up pretty quickly for yourself. So there's a marketing template. There's some instructions and so on. And this will give you the beginning of putting together your marketing plan. This is what they call a lean marketing strategy. You can get into much more detail, but what we're going to talk about going further will help you to actually do some of the work that's in here. So I know it's a little small. I could blow it up, but I don't want to take the time to get there. But that is available for you. So now let's talk about documenting your plan. Okay, so the first part of it was strategy. Now let's talk about documenting. So what we want to be able to do, I would start with setting goals, because you don't know where you need to be unless you have goals that you can set. Now, if you've got history based on where you've been in the last year, 2 years, 3 years, that's great, because then you've got some ideas of where you've been. Now you can look in the rearview mirror and figure out where you need to go. But even if you're a startup business, you need to set some goals. And those goals need to be, we'll talk about them in a minute, SMART goals. So, you need to articulate what you want to achieve, how much commitment will it take, how much money, people, all that stuff on each one of those goals. And then you want to focus on who matters. So knowing your audience more than anything is going to tell you where you need to be marketing. Create a buyer persona, and I've got that, I think, in one of the next slides to show you a little bit about how to do that, just to understand who your customer is based on either you've done this already, or you've done research in the marketplace, or you've got something of value that you want to offer to who, and that's your customer persona. And, know your competition. I can't stress that enough. You might want to consider putting together a situational analysis or a SWOT analysis, not only of your own business, and I'll go into that in a minute as well, but of your competitors' businesses. Because when you look at a SWOT analysis, which means strengths, weakness, opportunities, and threats, you want to look at what opportunities there are for you based on what issues your potential competitor has. And so a threat to your competitor or a weakness for your competitor might be an opportunity for you. Okay, tell your story. So in other words, back to that value proposition I talked in the very beginning, being able to get that value proposition out in an elevator pitch. And normally I'd ask for input on what an elevator pitch is, but in the essence of time, an elevator pitch is being able to explain your business or your value proposition from the time it takes an elevator, get from the 10th floor to the first floor, about 10 seconds, give or take. And you want to be able to be that succinct and um, um, that quick in order to be able to get that out. And that then plays into your marketing messages that you'll put out down the road. But being able to tell a story is really important, depending on, again, I've got people that have nonprofits. And by the way, nonprofits would benefit as well from a marketing plan like this, that got into their nonprofits or even into their businesses because of a very specific story that happened to them, or in some way they were involved in what was going on in their lives and decided to start a business around it. That's a nice story, and a lot of people would be interested in that. And where you've got that ability to tell that story, certainly on your website, certainly in your social media, certainly in any other way that you might interact with a client. Know your channels, and we're going to talk about that in a minute. Um, Develop an implementation plan to guide you through um, the act of actual marketing, for you to understand the tools and what tools you're going to use. Not all marketing tools work for every product or every service, so you need to understand what they do, what they reach. If you're using Facebook, you need to understand what the demographics of a Facebook user are. Does that fit your demographics? Same thing with Instagram, any of the other media that's out there that you potentially can use. But that would also be the same thing if you're running a print ad. Okay, where are you running it? What is the demographics of the people that see that? And is your message going to resonate with those people? So that's part of your implementation plan. And then measure. I mentioned measure before. You always want to track everything that you do to see what the ROI, return on investment, is. And an investment may not necessarily be money. It could be time. It could be other things. But you want to make sure that is well worth your time and your investment to be doing this. And if you've got good, strong financial systems, you can take a look to see how the impact of your marketing affects your bottom line. So let's move on. And I talked about setting goals, and this is part of documenting your plan. What you want to do is articulate what you want to achieve, how, when, how much commitment, time takes, money, and other things. So specific, be very, very specific. You don't want to have multiple goals. And you don't want your goals to be strategies. You don't want your goals to be objectives. You don't want your goals to be day-to-day tasks. You want your goals to be big, but they need to be specific. So your goal might be to increase sales by X in a given period of time. And I'm saying, so measurable would be that X, okay? And so if you know you want to increase your sales by X at a specific period of time, okay, so specifics is increasing your sales. Sorry, the measurable part of that is how much. The attainable part about it is, are you overreaching, or is this something you can attain? Okay, it's not bad to have a goal that's a little bit of a stretch, but if it is way out there, then forget about it. It's not going to work. How relevant is it to your business, to the growth that you want to attain? If it's not relevant, don't use it. Okay, if it is relevant, by all means. And then time-based. So you need to know by when you want that goal accomplished. That is very, very important. And then you'll take those goals, and then you'll start thinking through, if I want to increase my revenue by X, how do I do that? Okay, that's the strategy part of it. And that's maybe where you're going to use advertising as part of your strategy. It might be business to business sales as part of your strategy. It might be increasing your sales department. It might be a lot of different things. Those are the strategies, not necessarily the goal. The goal is to increase your revenue or your sales. Okay. And again, it's measurable because you've got a number. You can go back and, let's say you're going to do it in 1 year. You can go back in a year and you can take a look, and did I make that happen? Or better yet, if you're setting your goals, you should be looking at it monthly, quarterly, and annually so that you know if you're on track going forward. So I'm going to leave that. We can talk further about it if you like. You can work with a SCORE mentor, and we can help you set your goals. Now, I wanted to talk about a buyer persona, and it's that simple. It's just, and it could be made up based on the clients you currently have. It could be a real client. It could be a fictitious client. But the idea is to really understand who your target client is. Okay. Now, I'm talking about a sales administrator in some sort of a corporate setting. Okay. Maybe that's business to business. But if you're a consumer, if you're business to consumer and you've got people walking into your store, it's as important for you to understand your buyer persona as it is for somebody in a corporate situation doing that, or as it is in somebody that is manufacturing a product. Because if you don't know who your end user is, then you're not going to be able to market properly to them. So this is pretty simple. Um, if you're already in business and you know who you're selling to and what's successful, again, don't look at the clients that you're not successful with. If you've got an e-marketing business, I'm sorry, an e-tail business, you're selling online, look at where your business is coming from. Don't look at where it's not coming from. Same thing with, in a store. If you've got people that walk around and don't buy, they're not your customer. Okay. Maybe they'll come back. Maybe they will be. Same thing with manufacturing. Who is your end user? So what you want to understand is what their background is, demographics. Okay. You can see that this person is married with children, suburban. There's probably a lot more in demographics that you can do based on what you're trying to do. If you are selling specifically to various ethnic groups, then that's part of your buyer persona. If you're selling very specifically to female, that's part of your buyer persona. If you're selling to people that are into tattoos, that's part of your buyer persona. What their goals are, and in fact, in this case, increase their productivity, reduce support calls. This all makes sense when you think about it. Support corporate initiatives of cutting down IT costs. Very easy to come up with some of that based on who you are currently with, how you're, what their challenges are, what you can do to help them, and what common objectives do you have that, or do they have that you can potentially capitalize on and solve those problems. So buyer persona is really an important thing. And as you're going through your marketing plan, consider putting together a buyer persona. If you're doing the short plan, it may not have that in there. There are some longer plans, but certainly it's something that's well worth looking at. Knowing your competition, and I'm going to talk about strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. I mentioned that before. Here is a link to a SWOT analysis. I'm just going to bring this up very quickly. And this is way, way oversimplified. Okay. So, strengths, weakness, opportunities, and threats, you can actually put them in there. But you want to look at things that are relevant to your very specific business. Products and services, if in fact that's what you want. And you want to drill down to being more specific. If you have 10 or 15 or 20, it's not the end of the world. Things that you are evaluating with your self, as well as with your your competitors. What are their strengths? So if you're let's again high level, very oversimplified products and service offerings. So what do you have? What do they have? What's better about what you have? What is it that you might be missing? Another way to learn from your competitors what they're doing that you're not. There's no reason why you can't take an idea from them, utilize it, improve on it, grow it. Branding, how are they marketing? So go to their websites, call them up directly, especially if you're looking at pricing. So I don't have pricing down here. I don't have a lot of the smaller details that you might be looking at to make comparisons between you and your competitors. And each business has a different set of competitors and a different set of evaluation criteria that you might put down here. And again, this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's no reason why you can't have 15 or 20 things that you're evaluating on. And there's several ways of doing these. You can articulate them, verbally. You can just put in pluses and minuses. You can, however, you utilize it to work out how good you are versus your competitors. And if you've got three good competitors, use them. You got five, use them. I wouldn't do more than five. And make sure that those competitors are similar in nature to what you are. So, in other words, if you're regional or even local, you don't want to be looking necessarily at national in a SWOT analysis, although you might look at your national competitors in terms of what they're doing that you may not be doing, or how they scaled their business. And, if you, in fact, are looking at growing your business in that direction down the road. So that is that. Let's talk about some of the marketing channels and some of the tactics that you can use to work on getting your message and your product in front of your clients or your customers. So these are the four that I'm going to discuss. There may be more, but these are the important ones. There's earned media, there's paid media, owned and shared. And I'm going to show you a little bit about each one. So paid media is exactly that. It's what you pay for out of your pocket. And it could be certainly e-marketing. It could be, going to Google and buying ads. It could be all of those things, but it is money spent from your pocket to attain customers. And again, you need to evaluate the outcomes of all these things to see if your return on investment is there. I find I've got several clients that have services and sell business to business, and they show up at trade shows, and that's where they get customers. They demonstrate their products, they demonstrate what it is that they do, and that's one way to take a look at it. That may be well worth it if you're getting 1,000 clients at the top of the pipeline, and I showed you that pipeline before, that funnel. Then that may be well worth your time and your effort to pay for the trade show, to be there, to pay for the booth, all that stuff. But then again, it may not. So you need to determine that yourself. So there's paid. Let's go on to the next one. That there's owned. So this is content that you own that you can utilize to get in front of people, to get them to a call to action. And a call to action means do something when they look at what you put out there. So let's say, for instance, you are putting it out in social media. The call to action might be read more. It might be um, an inquiry. It might be going to your website because they want to look at what you've got available there. That is content that you own that you can put into various places. You can go on your website. You can go in if you're doing direct email work, if you're doing any kind of advertising, it is generally in the way of a link that somebody can act on to get more information. So that's owned. Let's see what else there is. Email marketing. Email marketing is a great way to get the word out. It requires some effort. There's a little bit of cost involved because if you're going to do it right, you should have an app through, I'm trying to think of some of the ones off the top of my head, MailChimp, Constant Contact. There's several others out there that do the same thing. And what that also gives you is the way to measure your return on your investment. So in other words, if you're working on email marketing and you have the ability to see, to track, first of all, people that you're email marketing to, and that might be a matter of you needing to go out and getting, potential clients and customers to give you permission to utilize their email. There's a lot of ways to gather that information. But bottom line here is that you want to be able to track it. You want to have a list of people that you're sending to. You want to know who's opening. You want to know if they're going from what you put in that email to for a call to action to your website or any other place that you might want to have them look at. And that information is all available and measured on Constant Contact, as I mentioned before, MailChimp, and several of the others. And there are, if you're using Square, if you're using two or three of the website programs out there, there are ways of doing direct email marketing that is measurable as well. So you can look at the success of your marketing programs. So that's owned, and you can see other things, webinars, workshops. SCORE does a lot of workshops, and that helps to fill the top of our pipeline. I've already pitched utilizing SCORE mentors several times. So when we get mentor requests, a lot of times it's because of these workshops that we're doing. Let's go into shared. So that's social media. You also own content on that, but that's stuff that you can share with other people. All of, and I don't have nearly any of them, there's only 4 or 5 listed here, but all of the social media that's out there is what they consider shared media. And it's all basically free unless you're buying ads, which then would be paid media. So partnerships, so charity tie-ins. So if you're working with another organization and you can tie into it, it doesn't have to be charity. It could be any kind of partnership that you're doing and marketing your business and their business, sponsorships, co-branding, those kinds of things. And you can see that it's somewhere in between shared and earned. And then the last part of this is influencer engagement. Okay. Loyal customers turn into great influencers and advocates if you've got them and if you can utilize them. Getting reviews is very, very important. The first thing you all do when you're considering, I want a plumber to work on my house is you're going to look at the reviews first. So, how important are reviews? Extremely so. So that's, and the reviews are part of your influencers. And the idea is to understand buying habits and behavior of your target audience, and you will through some of this stuff. So let's go on and let's talk a little bit about some of the digital marketing channels that we just discussed. So digital marketing really helps to connect and engage with an audience very efficiently and effectively. You all know that already, so I don't need to talk about that. But what's good about it is that it is potentially very trackable. Okay, you're not necessarily going to know that you sold $100,000 worth of business because you did something on social media, but you can watch, you can look at how many people click, how long they stay. If you're selling stuff online, did they go there? What did they buy? How long were they there? Did they abandon their carts? Other things like, were they looking at the call to actions that you put out there in other media or other ways of getting it out there? Those are all things that you can tie together to see how well you're doing. So, it also helps you expand reach. Think about it. And if you're doing an advertisement in the New York Times because you want to reach that audience, it's going to cost you hundreds of thousands of dollars, I'm guessing. I don't really know for sure. But if you go out there on digital marketing, it's a whole lot less to boost a post or several of the other things that you can do in order to get that word out further. So that help you expand your reach. I mean, you've literally got millions and millions of people that engage in social media. Now, I make this sound easy, and I know that if you're working on social media and you've got your website, you're starting out your business, it ain't going to come overnight. It takes time, it takes effort, it takes nurturing, it takes a long time to get to the point where you've got enough people that are following you, that are doing calls to action and things like that. It takes a long time to build that up. So don't think that if you go out there and you are, marketing through, the various digital outlets, that's going to grow anything without you nurturing it. And that's part of what we've talked about a little bit today. But that might be something that you might want to engage in with a SCORE mentor. It's somebody that's got some expertise in that type of marketing. So I think that this 87% might be low right now. But I've looked this up a couple different times, and there's different ways. But think about this: that approximately 87% of consumers now start their buying journey online, and that holds true not only with retail, as I said, consumer to business to consumer, business to business, manufacturers, everything that's out there. That's out there. Service businesses, everybody. So content marketing, I'm just going to go through these very quickly. You can go through them in more detail. You can also go ahead and pull up this blog and take a look at some of this. Content marketing is a strategic planning, creation, understanding where your content is going to reach your target audience. So you need to really think about that. Search engine optimization is getting your website not only, direct requests for your website, but organic requests for your website. So a plumber near me, or a restaurant near me, or a store near me, you want to get to the pages that are underneath the sponsored content. And there's a lot of ways to do that that would take a webinar and some other time, that we don't have to do this. Email marketing, I mentioned already, but it's a nice way to get the word out. It's not terribly costly, but it does have some cost to it. And then social media marketing, we talked about video marketing. So no matter what channels you're on, whether it's electronic, social, your website, there's no reason why you can't put videos up there, and they work very, very well. We actually do a workshop just on videos for your website. So that's probably been recorded. If you want to look at it, you can find it. But probably during the course of the following several months, we'll be doing this again, and it's pretty cool. It's pretty good. Paid advertising is helpful if you've got the money to do that, but you need to analyze whether or not the return on investment is there, and it might take some time. But there's a lot of different ways you can do this. Pay per click. You can boost posts. You can go on Google Ads, do other things like that. And I don't have the time to get into how to do each one of those things. Actually, if you go to Google and ask how to utilize Google Ads, it'll tell you. So affiliate marketing, I mean, we talked about that a little bit as well, and that is utilizing third parties, doing partnerships, doing sponsorships, and things like that. Influencer marketing, we talked about that as well. And so, each one of these has probably, you see, I've got, as I click on any one of these, there's more detail behind it. And so feel free when you get these slides to do that. So in digital marketing, you do want to be able to start looking at um, your statistics. You want to be able to look at what's out there, but there are several organizations, companies out there that can give you information about your business or about things that are going on. Much of it is paid. You need to, sign up and pay. Some of this stuff is free, but StatCounter, Statista, Hootsuite, they all have information about various types of businesses and industries and companies out there, so you can look them up and get more information. I have a feeling that the 467 billion mobile internet users are probably bigger now than when I put this together last, which was in February. And then display advertising. I mean, there's a lot of different ways you can do that. Here's what I wanted to show you. If you wanted to, this gives you two things that you can work on. This gives you a way to put your costs in. Gives you and also a list of possible places that you might be able to do your marketing. So I'm going to pull this up real quick. I think I have this. Yeah, I do. So what I like about this is the headlines: brand development, public relations, advertising, website slash interactive marketing. If you're working with an agency, various kinds of analytics and other things that you might want to consider working on. Now, this is set up where you can actually put dollar amounts in, and you can see it's month by month, or you can do it quarter by quarter. The nice thing about this is it will help you figure out how much money you can spend if you want to spend the money. So it's in here. Let me go back to this. We're almost at the end. So what I would say, that if you have the ability to do some work on your own to get yourself started in a marketing plan, this is a good way to get it going. Begin, goal planning. So there's a goal, a smart sheet template here. SWOT analysis, which I think I put in previously as well. Marketing plan. Begin looking at budgeting. And certainly if you need a mentor, just hit that link and it'll bring it up to our website. I think it's still a good link. It is. And there's two ways to do this. You can um, browse the mentor profiles and pick one, or do what I showed you before and let us match you. But I would definitely, you can look at our profiles and see um, some of the mentors that are online that you can work with. And now I'm going to look to see if, so I don't have anything in the chat. It's 12:54. We've got 6 minutes. I did this in record time. So if you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. If not, I'll give it a second or two. We're done. So any chat, feel free to drop it in. I know this was a lot thrown at you in a short period of time. And I hope that I gave you some insight to be able to at least begin thinking through your marketing. And if you already have marketing, evaluating what you've got. Okay, here's one. Thanks, this was helpful. I look forward to watching your recording. Okay, thank you. Appreciate that, Jennifer. Thank you. Jennifer, I've seen you on other workshops too. Anybody else? I think that's it. Okay, so let me stop sharing. Let me say thank you very much for your time, and I look forward to seeing if we can help you out further.